Hello, it's Claire McNaughton here. I haven't been doing many YouTube videos for a while because I've been busy. It's been the school holidays, and I've also been putting together a collage memoir called Looking for Mr. Rabbit. Here it is. Look at that. That bad boy has taken me and my friend Teresa 3 months to transcribe all my diaries from when I was a kid, and some pieces of writing that I found that I wrote in 1997 about how I felt about my mother's death. And also we've got a bit of so we found some records and conversations that came between me and Hagar, or Kai, or whatever you want to call him, when he was on HMS Ocean. It's a really, it's a book about my life, and I'm going to publish it. So whatever happens, this book is going to be released. Now the question is, do I self-publish it, or do I try and persuade a traditional publisher to take the book on? Now the difficulty with going with a traditional publisher is that I'm just a normal person. I'm Claire McNaughton. I went to comprehensive school. I'm not famous. I'm not a TV presenter. I'm not an athlete. I'm just an ordinary 42-year-old woman with kids who's had a fairly turbulent marriage, a slightly dysfunctional start. My mother died when I was 2 years old, and just a slightly hedonistic life. And really, this is just me as a writer, using writing as a means to express myself. I think it's entertaining. I think it's written well. I think it's a good read, and I think the purpose of reading is to entertain people. And I think if you like reading about people's lives and you like to look at things from different perspectives, then I think this book will interest you. But of course, as publishing wants bestsellers, they want somebody to release a book and it to sell 50,000 copies in its first go. Now, I have written a best-selling book. I was a ghostwriter, and I wrote a best-selling book called Immediate Response for a Royal Marine called Mark Hammond. And I've also self-published a sort of sample of this book, because when we submitted it initially to publishers, the general feedback was that I wasn't very nice and people didn't like me because they didn't sympathise with me, because I suppose because I wasn't a victim, because how I've lived my life, I live it very unapologetically. So really the question is it worth doing it if it's not going to sell 50,000 books and it's not going to turn me into an international best-selling authoress? But I think it is worth it, because I've been writing these words since I was 13 years old, and I've chronicled the journey of my life in a sort of slightly anecdotal way, and I think it's funny. So what I've got to do now is I've got to blend some of the chapters together, because it sort of jumps around at the moment. And so I'm going to sit down now. Hagar, or Kai, or however you want to call him, I've had to get him to read it first, because obviously it kind of impacts him, and obviously he's got an invested interest, not financially invested, but he's got an emotionally invested interest in it. So he said that he found it interesting, but he said that he found it genuinely interesting. And out of everybody with regards to my writing, I think he's possibly the most sceptical. So now that he's read it, I feel relieved. And now that he doesn't hate it, I feel relieved as well, because I feel that we can move the book on to the next stage, which is to sort of go through it now. And I've changed everybody's name. So you could be in this book. If you know me, you could be in this book. And there's people in this book that I can't even remember that I knew, but I did know them, let alone fancy them, because there's people in this book I fancied that I didn't even know I fancied until I read my own diaries again. Then you forget all of these things. And I think also, being the parent of an 11-year-old boy, it's really difficult to sort of remember what it's like to be 11. And I think one of the things that's been most interesting for myself is to revisit my 11-year-old self and discover that actually I'm not that far removed from my son, really. I mean, I'm not obviously exactly the same, but you know, we're a bit different anyway. So I'm going to edit it now, and I'll do another video update soon. So look out for it, and let's just keep with me on this self-publish or publish journey.